Oh, y'all thought we was playing with you. Y'all thought we was playing with you. Y'all thought we was playing with you. Yo, the Black Files is here. Yes, this is epic, Arshawn. This is epic, baby. You know what I mean? Told you I got something new for y'all. You know what I mean? This is the Black Files, man. Today, you know what I mean? Y'all see who I got on here? Miss O'Shun, aka Skelly. She's gonna be Skelly. I'm actually Mulder right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And we bringing y'all the Black Files, man. We bringing y'all the Black Files. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God! Yes, tonight is the Black Files night.
Yeah, and our first topic, ladies and gentlemen, all right, is deja vu. Okay, all right. And with the Black Files, here's the thing. All you're gonna know is that we're going live. That's all you're gonna know. We're not gonna tell you anything else. Okay? That's all you're gonna know. You're just gonna see the logo, you're gonna see notification, that's all you're getting. Alright? That's all you're getting. And then when you come in here, you're gonna see the videos, you're gonna see everything all the topics that we're talking about once we pop up. Okay? You know what I mean? We keeping it a secret, we keeping it under wraps, we keeping it covert. You know what I mean? Just like the X-Files. You know how the X-Files was covert? This is very covert as well. So Skelly, Miss O'Shun, Lola, this deja vu thing, we talked about this, right? So
yes.
For those who want to know, you know what I'm saying? You know, let them know your reason for this topic, because you brought this to me and I said, yo, we covering this and we're gonna go all the way in. So give them the background and we're gonna go from there.
Okay, so just to give a little background first, deja vu is something that most people, you know, already kind of know about, right? Or we think we know about it. And it's a subject that is not studied whatsoever. And I became interested in deja vu as a child when, you know, you had to go to the library to find out everything. And you know, I tried to find so much information on it, but there was literally nothing. And then, as you know, technology increased and the internet became an issue, I started researching it on the internet. And I started to find that this is a really, really underrated topic. And what's weird, what is the weirdest thing about it, because it's already weird, is that scientists, doctors, philosophers, everybody seems to dismiss it as essentially a mishappening of the brain that no one needs to be concerned with. Like, please don't be concerned with this. It's just something we talk about, but it's really nothing of consequence whatsoever. So,
but yet they want to come out with things like VR and things of that nature, which can kind of mess with the cognitive mind and may cause those things to probably be triggered or to happen.
Right.
So is it that they just want to control it and they don't want us to really unlock it on ourselves? Like, you think it's kind of a combination of that?
Well, here's the thing, right? Because based on what I've seen so far, right, I'm not sure if it can be controlled. However, you can control people not to look wherever it's at. So it's like if there was some superpower someone had, right? You can't control their superpower, but if you control their position on their superpower, meaning if they care about it, if they even want to use it, if they even know about it, right? If you keep that a secret from them, in a sense, by extension, there can be some level of control in terms of the subject matter, not so much the actual thing. But this goes to show that, you know, one thing that, like, my father always taught me is that when you're trying to figure something out, don't always look at what's being said. Look at what's not being said. And one of the things that I found that wasn't being said about the anomaly or the phenomena of deja vu is if your mind is having a slip, right? Then that means that's for a reason. Like, your brain, the brain itself, the mind is the next frontier. People say space is the next frontier. Space is not the next frontier. It's actually the brain, the mind, well, consciousness. And that's essentially what we're talking about, consciousness. So, you know, as far as the background is concerned, essentially because there's been no history recorded on this subject. And there's very little videos on YouTube, and there's virtually no research. I took it upon myself for the past couple years to do my own research internally and externally. So I've spoken to certain people that, well, they weren't afraid to talk about it and speak about it frankly to me in terms of their experience. And those experiences were very, wonderful in my opinion. And I've had my own experience too that we'll get into later on. But the history has been something that we as a species we've ignored. And I feel that that's been on purpose by the higher powers, just simply because I don't know any governmental entity that would not research something like this, something as monumental as this, and say, oh, it's nothing. Like, I think it's nothing is the same thing as when they say, all those, unexplained aerial phenomena are nothing. It's like, this is one of those things, but it's on a different level. So I'm very much interested in discussing this and continuing my research in it. Because again, the truth is there, but that history that most people use in their research and in their plight to understand phenomena is not there. Everything is experience based, and to a large degree, I appreciate that. I appreciate that everything that we know about this comes from our own experience, and you have to have your own experience to even keep up with the conversation. So I mean, we'll get into it later as far as what these experiences look like. But I do want people to know that, I did choose this and this topic, and Mr. Best, we spoke about this privately at length, but I chose it because this is something that my heart has been set on understanding for a long time. And I'm a big researcher, so I had to utilize this platform for that, and it was just the best type of conversation to have. So I'm ecstatic about that. But what say you about what you knew about it? Because I know I've researched doctors' information, like anybody that wrote a paper on it, a dissertation in college, wherever. I've researched just like conversations from the early 20th century, and I've been out of luck as far as like finding raw information and study on it. So I've had to conduct my own, and I do feel that this is like a new chapter in human history, because I don't have anything that came before me to really base anything on. Everything is me by myself going forward, and taking this seriously. So I'm a little trepidatious, honestly, but I'm glad we can have at least a conversation now. And somewhere in the YouTube world, someone can look up Deja Vu and see that someone actually is doing research on this. So, what is your history when it comes to Deja Vu, so we can both be on the same understanding about this? So you can just kind of, fill me in on that. Why is that? Okay, I think Mr. Best might be having a little technical difficulty, so I will. Yeah, I definitely continue on. So today, like I said, was inspired by conversations that me and Mr. Best had offline, and one of the questions that we discussed offline was, how do I know that this is a thing, right? And I thought that it was a fair question. Oh, there you go, Mr. Best. Okay, so I was just ready to get into how me and you got into this conversation about deja vu, and why it came to the attention of both of us as something important to cover. But at first I wanted to know, what is your history and understanding of deja vu up into this point?
All right, before we let So we let loose on the family. We gotta acknowledge the people in the chat. You know what I'm saying? We see you out there, family. We see y'all. We see y'all. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, first person we got up in here that I see, scrolling all the way up, we got M3. M3, what up, baby? You know what I'm saying? Also got Stan Joseph. Stan Joseph also helps to host, you know what I mean, the non-relationship shows on Monday and Thursday with Lola, you know what I'm saying? And they bringing some great content to y'all. Y'all look out for that. You know what I mean? We also got OG Patrice. Hey, OG Patrice has had an amazing show with the wonderful Michonne Young, singer, songwriter, just a phenomenal woman, man. She's been doing, you know, jazz and other contemporary R&B for a long time. Definitely check out the interview that happened earlier today. Please check out OG Patrice, you know, straight talk, no chaser with OG Patrice on Non-Relationship. Y'all know what it is, man. Also, who else we got in the business? We got Sister Inye. Hey, she said, hey, intellectual about. Hey, Sister Inye, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Also, we got the man giving out the crowns, you know what I mean? Because he's a king himself. The homie Daryl Long. D, what up, baby? You know what I mean? Good to see you. You know what I'm saying? Also got, you know what I mean? Arshawn, a.k.a. Quickly Drinking, said, oh, this feel epic. I'm going to say it again. It is epic, man. What's going on? You know what I mean? Also, who else we got up in here? Got my man, Sophomore Marcus. Marcus, hopefully you're making them sandwiches, man. Hopefully you cooking sandwiches. You're making sandwiches. You're baking them and doing all that. You know what I mean? You're shaking and baking. You know what I'm saying? Also, got the homie, Grizzly Bear Productions. You know what I mean? A.k.a. Grizz. Grizz, what up, man? He said, I know a lot about Deja Vu. All right. Look, I'm going to drop the link in about 30 minutes, y'all. All right? So y'all can come up and share and tell us how you feel. Also got my Brooklyn brother in the house. Listen, he said, peace, family. Salute to the K&R Intellectual Soapbox and host. Hey, man, salute to you, bro. Salute to Harris Tribe Media, Mr. C said, and the whole fam. Also got, I'm knocking out these shout-outs quick. Shout out to Bro Clarence, a.k.a. Let's Talk the Better Black Life. What's going on? Salute, family. Ooh, I also got Bolo in this building. Bolo, what up, baby? Bolo for Dolo. Bolo's the coolest dude on YouTube,
hey, Bolo.
Man. You know what it is. Shout out to Bolo. What's good? What's good? You know what I mean? Everybody come on in. So, okay, let me give, and everybody else giving their greetings and everything else. I see y'all. All right? Let me give my definition of deja vu. So, deja vu to me is basically experiences that you've had, you know what I'm saying? And that it's just kind of connecting you to maybe an alternate universe or possibly an experience that you may have experienced in a different lifetime or in your lifetime to come. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's real. It's a real thing. You know what I mean? So anybody that don't think it's a real thing, trust me, it is. I've been through it, felt it, seen it, smelt it, all that. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it's trying to tell you something that's real, and you just have to connect the dots. You know what I mean? You got to connect the dots. You know what I'm saying? You know, the truth is out there. I'm not gonna take all the X-Files slogans, but I'm gonna take that one. The truth is out there. All right? The truth is motherfucking out there. Go and find it out and go seek it. Y'all know what it is.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that because I don't think there's any wrong answers, right? Because I do think reality is something we don't quite understand. As hardwired as it may seem that we understand that there's like hard things and there's shapes and there's this. When you really get into the science of physics, right? You start realizing when you get down to past the quantum level that there's really nothing here. And that's what's really weird. So when you consider the physics of this reality and then couple it with what we're experiencing in deja vu to say, well, we've already seen this before. If this is a nothingness that cannot really truly exist, right? Except for in a mind, maybe a super consciousness mind, then what are we experiencing of this quote unquote nothingness that's repeating sometimes?
Well, Sam, we might still be dreaming. We might still be dreaming.
Right.
And we might still be dreaming.
Right. And well, you know what? I wanted to get into that theory later on, of course, because that, like I said, I don't think at this point there are any wrong answers. It's just a matter of us going through all of them to really test it. And that's what I've spent years doing, testing different ideas, different theories, just based on what I know I can do, at least cognitively. And it's been it's been a strange experience for me. And I guess I'll start with the first experiences that I started to have, where things started to, move in a different direction from what I was being taught about this phenomenon. I always been a kid that strange things seem to have happened. When I was small as maybe 5 or 6. I would have dreams.
You always been small though, but let me
listen. Okay, when I was extremely small. Okay, beyond under 3 feet. Okay, when I was under 3 feet, yes. It's always been weird. So I remember when I could have been no more than 5 years old. I had a dream about my mother's medical condition. And in the dream, I was told, that there's a demon after her, inside of her. And I didn't understand what a demon was. I didn't understand what the dream meant until I became an adult. And because that dream stuck with me, right? And inside of that dream, I had an experience that was similar to a deja vu. And I remembered something happening before in the dream, but I was very young. Like I didn't even understand till I was much older. But that was like my very first experience with things was kind of different for me and deja vu. So, I started getting older, they were happening, but I wasn't paying it much attention until one day, and I could
Marcus,
have been...
be quiet, Marcus.
And one day I could have been like maybe in my late teens, and I started to notice that my deja vus, because I would think about them when they would happen, right? They would happen, and I would get this funny sense that this isn't the first or second time this didn't happen. I could essentially pick up on the fact that this is maybe the 4th time or maybe the 3rd or 5th time that I've seen this particular whatever is going on. And that was all I had. Like, I just feel like, yes, this is happening again, but it's not so much that it's happening again. I had this feeling that something's continuing to happen over and over and over and over again. And I just couldn't understand. It was just like a funny sixth sense feeling. But as I got older and I started to really pay attention to what was happening inside of those moments when deja vus happened, I started to remember what happened and what didn't happen. So I, in a sense, it was like I was stuck in a time warp where I remembered that this happened before several times, and maybe there was a cup to my left. Like I just remembered that, and and then after so many years, it would build up to the point where, I remember the first time this happened, I was at work, and I was about maybe...
Ooh, I got an artwork story too.
I was in my early 30s, and I was at work, and someone walked up to me, and they started talking, and I went into a deja vu, but it lasted for maybe over a minute. And it was it was the strangest thing that ever happened to me, because I knew what this man was going to say before he said it. And it was like a flowing of information, and I just knew, and I'm just sitting there, just watching this man, not caring about what he was asking me about, but just in awe of the fact that I'm having a deja vu, and now it's not a few seconds. Now it's pushing towards a minute, and I can remember everything that happened and what everybody is doing and is going to do. That was when it started getting freaky, but what happened after that would let me know that it wasn't just me. I started many years later having these experiences where when deja vus would happen.
If you don't get out of here with that.
What?
These women's intuition. Oh,
no, this isn't intuition.
This ain't nobody's intuition, brother.
This isn't intuition. Intuition plays a role, right? But this is beyond intuition. Intuition is innate to all humans, but this here
y'all heard that?
Beyond that. Yeah, so you can't blame anything on your natural biological functioning, and terms of intuition. Not right now. It does play a role, but not here per se.
Look, we're not doing no manosphere rhetoric, all right? This ain't got nothing to do with the manosphere. We talking about something way different, okay? Something way different tonight.
Yeah, y'all gotta give that a break. Yeah, give that a break, right? So, what happened to me that let me know that this was worth academic study was when I was sitting in my kitchen, the one I'm in now, and I was at my other desk, and I started just to have a deja vu when I was in the room by myself. But what I experienced was I recognized that that scene had happened several times, but something was missing. Someone was missing, and I could sense who it was. Meaning, it's someone that I know very deeply. They're supposed to be here, but for some reason they're not. And inside the deja vu, I was sticking with it in terms of I learned how to hold on to the moment, and it's just a matter of paying attention to the moment. It's not so much anything you have to do. It's just focus in on the moment, and it will lengthen itself just by your sheer focus. And I was confused inside of the deja vu because I said, how am I having this if this haven't happened before? And I'm remembering what's supposed to be. And I think maybe 20 seconds later, my son came walking in the room, and the deja vu started again, and it was completed. And I said, that's the missing part. So essentially, I started to experience deja vus in a different way. It wasn't just as it began as something that seemed like, oh, I think I remember this. It went to, I can tell when this memory happened, and how many times it happened, and what's wrong with it when something's out of place. Now, that was strange to me because I had seen movies where that had happened. Like people had already dabbled with the idea of being able to be in a time loop and understand where everything was. And so I felt that I never felt a deja vu that I was in a time loop. It wasn't that static, but it was something that I did feel was looping in some way. Like I was coming back to a point, and that point was something I could move anywhere in time. And so I still don't know what is the purpose of this. All I know is what's happening to us, what has always happened to us, is not simply, as they say in the academic world, a figment of your imagination, something that, something's triggering a memory, because there's been places I've been that I have never been, and I remember where I was at. And recently I came back from Africa visiting Cairo. I had so many deja vus there, it was unreal. Yet I had never been to Cairo before, and I had never been in a desert before, let alone underground in a desert. I've never been underground. And the fact that I had deja vu, that's the question. We can get into that. But what I know is it's not the scenery.
Hold on, stop the tape. Gotta give a quick shout out to my man, Dobie Apparel Media. This the homie from way back. You know what I mean? Shout out to Freedom Academy. Those who know. You know what I mean? Definitely check out Dobie Apparel Media. Alright, check them out. You know what I'm saying? He got some dope apparel. I gotta cop some of this apparel. Alright. So definitely, y'all make sure y'all cop some Dobie Apparel, man. It's definitely fire. Make sure y'all show my man some love. Wait, hold on. What's she eating over there? What are you eating over there? What are you eating?
I'm still devouring my cookies. I'm still devouring my cookies. I had them all week, so listen. I don't care. Forgive me tomorrow. But so just to kind of like wrap up just some of the experience I've had that has led me to the point where I am not guessing with this phenomena that I know because it's been my experience, is that I remember speaking to a friend of mine I think maybe 2 years ago, and she had mentioned to me after me telling her several things about my deja vus being so freaky, and how when I experienced them, at that time I was learning how to hold on to it, to lengthen the time without it being something that was just happening to me. meaning that I could control how long I stayed in it and how long I didn't. And that was something that I was struggling with at that time. However, one thing she told me was that what she said, what you may be experiencing is what she said she believed is being at a crossroads in time, meaning that imagine there's a bunch of lines going all different ways, right? And these are timelines, and where these timelines and dimensions meet at in that cross, that's where you experience that deja vu, because that deja vu is two lifetimes coming together, and the feeling is a memory, right? That's what you feel, like you remember something. However, what's happening,
let me say this, Lola,
is something. Go ahead.
Beyond that, right? Okay, something beyond that. But okay, right. Now I don't know if you ever watched a movie. It was I think it was a movie or a miniseries. They had these people that they would call like time cops, right? I think it was either Marvel or DC. I forget the name of the show, right? And what they would do is that they would govern time, space, and everything else, right? So, and they also would govern like the memories you had, things of that nature. So my thing is this, right? Are we being policed, right? And is the deja vu kind of the thing that's kind of interrupting the system? It's kind of breaking that fifth wall. You feel what I'm saying?
I think in some ways, right? The deja vu is, let's say, like the universe's wink at us that there's something there that we don't know, that we can know, but we're being told don't look there. Like I said in the beginning, I've never seen a phenomena in any place in our understanding where all of the scientists are saying we haven't researched this, but we know it's not important.
Thank you, Stan.
Like, have you ever heard of that? Like not
I've
one bit of research, but yet everybody's saying don't pay attention to it. It's not important. Not one person decided to really research that to figure out is this not important or is important. None of that. It's just you're being told we're not going to discuss this in academia, and in public we're not going to discuss it either. And everybody's just like, okay, and they go on. And there's only a few people like myself that are trying to research other people that are having these experiences to figure out what's really happening. And like I said, we don't really know. All I know is it's not nothing. Whatever's happening is not nothing. It's not. Like, we're experiencing something beyond what we can understand right now, but we have a capability of doing something that we don't even understand our capabilities. And the reason why I say that is because when I started to learn to control it, that's when I understood that when we talk about superpowers, human beings maybe have been our abilities have been
wait. You
say
hold on. You say you're telling me right now that you've learned how to control this?
Yes. I can't control when it happens, but I can control how much time I spend in it. Yes.
What?
Yes. I'm 40 years old, and I've been dealing with this since I was 5. And every year, every single deja vu I've questioned myself. I've dug into it. I've tried to remember. I've tried to figure it out. I've tried to research when there was no way to research except for at the local library, of which I didn't have a car. I was a kid. So I would have to go down there once a month and try to figure it out and go through thousands of books and not find nothing. Like, not even one book, not even one article written before 1900, not one. And I mean, I'm sure that it's out there, but it's so well hidden. I've had to really rely on my own understanding and experience to really just get anywhere with this topic. But as far as I've come so far is that we can control it, but to what degree we can control it, I don't know. Now, the bigger question is, okay, what are we controlling, and why, what does this do? Like, because it doesn't seem to negatively affect our lives when it happens. It's just something that we see and we kind of don't see. It doesn't really have an impact anywhere. So I don't expect people to look at this as something they have to drop what they're doing to, you know, figure out. But if we're on the topic and we're speaking about it, yes, I do feel that it's important enough for at least some of us, like myself, to drop what we're doing and research this topic and just bring the conversation to the forefront. Because right now, you know, I personally get tired of people talking about things that the government are covering up. Meanwhile, the government doesn't really cover up the most important things. They put those things very close to you in conversation so that you don't go looking for it. Like, for instance, like one time my father, he did like this with his finger, and he put his finger out here, and he said, look at it. He said, can you see my finger? I said, yeah, I can see everything about your finger. Now he took his finger and he brought it in here, and he was like, tell me what my finger looks like. And I was like, this is stupid. I can't see your finger. And he was like, this is how lies work. If you bring it close enough, people won't even look for it, let alone see it.
Wow. That's like the philosophy is if you put something in the book, people won't read it. It's the same type of philosophy. Correct. I'm gonna say this. Right. I'm gonna speak on my experience, right? This was my experience. Now, what happened to me was I was at work, just like you, sitting at a computer, and you know, because I do a lot of tech work, so I was sitting at a computer. And I had thought about what I wanted to type, but I didn't type it yet. But then when I looked on the screen, it was already there. And I was like, yo, like, I just thought about typing this, and I typed it. Also, there was a situation where, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was, because I had another one. It happened to me again recently. Like, I had thought about doing something, right? I didn't even do it yet. I thought about it, and it was something that, it was in my mind. It was in my memory. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then when I looked, I already did it. And I was like, yo, this is weird, right? And it's not. It's like it's something that I feel is there, but I can't completely control it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You have a sense that there's something there, but
yeah.
You know
what I mean? So,
but you know what? Like, with stuff like that. From what you're explaining, and tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like it's not so much that you in that moment you seen something again, but you saw it before it happened, and therefore it happened again. Meaning it happened subconsciously, maybe on a level where you already knew it and it happened, and then consciously you caught up to it in time, and it had already happened, and you just realized. Like, is that how it felt? Like, because really, it's about how you feel in that moment. It's energy you picking up on in a moment that tells you what's really going on. Like, when you were in it, did it feel that way?
It felt like I was really in it, but it also kind of felt like I was given I was basically extracting an amount of energy, right? And I felt the energy leave me. And then once I felt the energy leave me, I didn't. It's not like I got tired or anything like that. I just felt like I did something, but then I didn't physically do it. I just thought about doing it, and then it happened. You know what I mean?
Right. So you see, it's like something happens, and it feels like it's happening to you, but you have this sense that not really. It's something happening, but it seems like it's happening to you, and you have no control over it. But you have this sixth sense that no, it might not necessarily be the case. You just don't understand how you can control it or how you can manipulate it in any fashion. And I think that's where all of the world is right now. Like, we know something's there. We just don't understand what its place is and what place is it in terms of how do we use it? Because obviously we're hardwired to figure out survival first, right? So how does deja vu help us survive, right? Now, here's my theory, and I could be wrong because, again, this is taking years to get just a little place, okay? My theory is that every component, including these experiences, are there for our survival. I don't believe nature equips us with anything that is outside of our survival. So when we ask the question, how does your ability to know something and that happens, and then it happens, and you're in that time, how does that help you survive, right? Hey, Queen.
What's up, people?
Hi.
Queen.
I don't mess with the Black File too much, because Mulder and Scully, I'm scared of that show. So you're talking about something I could get into, because I don't. The other ones, I'm just gonna be in the background watching.
Oh man, okay.
I'm glad you entered at your own risk, though. I'm glad you came. Welcome.
I ain't scared of y'all, but
You sure?
I'm scared of what y'all talk about sometimes. So.
Oh my God! Don't say that.
I hate that. I hated that show.
Oh
and
my!
The person I would wake up and listen to that, and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, why are you watching this?"
Don't be afraid. Come here. Come closer.
But you know what? That's interesting. You say that because, like what we were just speaking about before you came on, I was saying that I believe that every aspect of our being, including our non-physical being, is there for our survival. But right now, as a new species, I put it, we're still learning what this is in terms of how we are to use this for our survival, or how we used to use it in a remote past to survive. I feel that, and it may sound cliche, but knowing what's going to happen before it happens is a very unique thing to certain types of beings. Obviously, animals move based on instinct and intuition as well combined. So they they read the environment, they read nature, and nature tells them how to move. However, when we're reading things, and for instance, like Mr. Best said, he thought of something, and and when he caught up to it, it had already happened. He didn't even have to do it. Like his conscious has split, and it created like this semi-time differential. It's like that's not natural to dolphins, like to predict time without the natural world creating a base for that, right?
Lola,
that's not natural to them.
Lola, all I'm gonna say to you is when you disappear, I know what happened. So you keep talking, Lola. They're gonna come get you.
They're gonna take one of us once you show. Before we end, by the end of the first season, by next June, they're gonna take us. They're gonna take us. I'm ready.
Get Scully, aka Lola, aka Miss.
Listen, whatever they say.
I know you got 90 days worth of water. Hopefully, you got 90 days worth of water.
Oh, I do.
Everything. And
you know I do. You know I do. I got my whole pantry in there because
I know you do.
Yes, I got seeds over here.
You got a secret tree house too somewhere.
It feels like it, but it's in my basement.
I bet it do. I'm coming to visit though. Just leave room for me. But on the note of deja vu, I had a situation happen, and you don't think of it. You just think of it as, I thought of it as, wow, I felt like God protected me. There was a situation where I was supposed to go somewhere with a friend of mine, and me and her were supposed to go to a different borough or a different area in New York, and that we were unfamiliar with. And I was like, what time we got to get there? Where is this at? And I was just like, all night when we was getting ready, we was about to go, blah, blah, blah. We got dropped off at the train station where we had to catch. And I was just like, I don't feel good about this. I kept saying that. She was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, something ain't sitting right with me, and I don't want to go. I'm not going. We just going to cancel. We're going to cancel. We're going to, let's reschedule it. And come to find out that it was going to be a real bad situation. We found out later, man. I was like, what? Yeah, and she was like, I am so sorry, didn't know. And I forgot. We found out because we were just kind of casually talking about it with the people we were supposed to meet. And it kind of, I don't know, people, a drunk mind speaks a sober tongue. And one of the people started saying stuff, And it was like, yeah, you know, y'all messed up because last weekend y'all supposed to come out here and it was supposed to go down like this. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
But you know what, Queen, with that experience, right? What and here's why I say I believe it's all connected, because between what I experienced, right, what Mr. Best experienced and what you experienced, the common thread is time. And I know, Mr. Best, we've spoken at length about the phenomena of time and how people just think time is linear, and we really don't understand time for what it really is. Like, what is time? All we know is we're experiencing these different things, and we're just sticking with the idea that time is linear because that's, you know, what the Afghans tell us.
As I always say, he who controls time controls the world. He controls everything. He controls the universe. He's basically God.
And time is, right now, at least for most of us, is about how we perceive it. So as you said, if you can control how people perceive time, then yes, you are essentially controlling time on an individual level.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. And I mean, I know that sounds very like dangerous. I mean, on a different level, but that is essentially what's happening. Because I'll be honest with you, whether or not I can perceive the future happening in a deja vu, or you're standing at a bus stop and something is telling you in the future something's going to happen and you need to move because there's a future where something happens and you need to move away from it. Or like in Mr. Best's case, he's already thought of the future and he's just physically catching up to it. Like, the common thread is time. And this is what I'm saying. I don't know all that I need to know about time. All I know is in my investigation of deja vu, I'm noticing that there's an issue of time here. Time is at the core of this. And I know, and we'll probably do a live on this, on some of the historical phenomena that happened with, for instance, that SSR ship that disappeared and reappeared in Philly in a different year. And stuff, like, you know what I'm talking about. We'll get into that, but these are anomalies that let you know there's something going on, and it's not just a brain malfunction. So
now when that ship disappeared and reappeared, when it reappeared, were people on it?
No.
Yeah, people were on it. People were still on it, but the problem was, and just try to follow me here. It seemed like to me, based on what I read and what was described, was that all of the particles like separated of the ship and the people, and then it almost came back together the way it was. Almost, meaning people were lodged inside of steel, but they were still strangely alive, but they were literally lodged. Like, my arm is lodged in this wall, like, literally. And they had, some of them I think did die because they're trying to, it's a ship, for goodness sake, nobody's going to come in and cut you out of a ship. But this is what happened, and the only way to explain it, how did they get inside of steel? Their body gets stuck in steel. Like, it's only because their body, the molecules separated and came back together. Now, to be honest with you, we've heard of some of these anomalies inside of some of our religious texts, but it's colored with miracles. You understand? Miracles. And we haven't really broken these miracles down in terms of the actual physics of it and what's possible and what's not possible. Because I think, again, the powers that be tell us miracles is something that God did. And they say, well, for instance, water standing straight up, that's just something God do. That's not reality because of gravity, right? But then when you study gravity, you start understanding, like, gravity isn't as straight line as you think it is. It's not. It's a thing that is alive. Like, you don't even understand gravity. You know, you just don't. Like, where gravity is and why it's there. Like, it's an actual thing, right? And it has rules to it. And sometimes the rules are not obeyed. And therefore, these are those moments where you start trying to figure out, like, okay, why is it that powers that be want me to believe that God did this? Is it because if you didn't believe God did this and this was real, that you would start trying to do things like this? Like, I remember talking to my dad one day, right? We were talking about Jesus bringing that girl back to life, right? And I said, Daddy, you know, the Bible says, Jesus said, you'll be able to do what he does more in the future. do you believe that when he brought that girl back to life, that you could do the same thing? He said, you can. And my father looked at me and he said, don't talk like that. And I said, what do you mean, don't talk like that? He said, listen, no one can bring life consciousness back to the body that it leaves. And I said, Daddy, your Bible really talks about that at length, but you're not paying attention to it. You're not. And I'll be honest with you, talking about calling consciousness back into a dead body is something that's very much outside of our understanding. It is. However, is it really that far-fetched?
But remember, in the Bible, it says that until Jesus comes back, theoretically, you're just asleep. Your conscience is still there.
But look at the context there. He's saying that there's time, and then there's something there that is on hold in a sense, right? But again, what's on hold, and why is time important to it? What's up with now? You see, we're back at time. We're still back at the time factor. And all I'm saying is, I don't have all the answers, but I know there's something more to time because I'm seeing the thread over and over and over again, moving in the same pattern.
Well, so not to get political or social, but I think that was the whole trick of the colonizer and the oppressor to make you invest your time into things that neither you know about or care about or you really understand, and to strip you of really having true freedom and really being truly, on your own and really living life. You know what I mean? So if they strip you of that, of course now they can implement their religion, their culture, and everything else to you because now they're controlling your time. So they're telling you that instead of you being able to live off the land that you lived off plentifully, or be able to hunt your own food, or be able to believe in whatever you want to believe in, now you have to work these amount of hours. Now you have to do these amount of things. Now something that you could have created on your own, and you could have learned how to create it on your own. Now you have to have a barter system where now you have to actually pay for these things, where these things are really freely accessible. You know what I mean?
Well,
but now,
why don't we question that though?
You know why we don't question that though? People don't question things that people listen, Scully. People don't question things that they know they can't do anything about, right? It's like, okay, why can't I fly? Right?
I get you that.
Why can't I fly? I'm not gonna spend too much time questioning it because for me to try to figure that out would take an length time, and it's not something I can control. So the thing is that if I basically strip you to the bare minimum of only focusing on things you can control, then of course you're gonna always just only be focused on time. So I'm gonna take it back to the deja vu thing. The deja vu thing, it kind of breaks that, right? And it's making you focus on things that, are outside of the norm, right? It's making you focus, it's making you see things from a different spectrum. And so once that happens, it's breaking the rules of reality, right?
Right.
And that's dangerous because the thing is, if I break the rules of reality and I know how to control that, then I essentially can do whatever I want.
Correct. And but you see where it's going with this, right? Because right now we're at a very immature level of understanding what these phenomena are, right? But we do have a sense that once we do understand, it is a level of freedom associated with this knowledge base. We do have a sense of that, even though we don't know much about what we're even talking about. We have this underlying sixth sense that once we figure this out, it's something associated with power within the universe, or the known universe and the unknown universe at this point. And that's something we don't even understand if we can handle. Meaning, if I told you can control time and space, what would you do with it? At this point, we might not even know if we want to go back in time and see how our sixth great-grandfather died. We might not want to see the death of our children. We might not want to know, well, are we going to experience something that we fear in the next 5 years? Like, we might not want to see time in that way. But if I give you the accessibility to control time not even so much as control time from viewing it, but control time itself for what it means. Would you create a new universe for yourself? Would you
Of
go
course,
beyond?
everybody would
yeah.
do that. Everybody would do that, and see that's the
Hell
problem.
yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, right? That's what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to have that influence and power, because now, if I'm able to break through that, now, you know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing, right? This is something that you always have to ask yourself, right? Why are the things that we desire the most, right, that are most pleasurable, why do they put a cap on all of that, right? Or why they tell you that you can only do it but so much, or you can only have it in a certain time frame, or in a certain type of relationship, or in a certain type of, time and space, right? Okay, I've been working all day. I've been working for 5 hours straight, right? I have not taken any breaks, right? I am hungry, right? But you're telling me that I only have 30 minutes to eat, right? After I've spent 5 hours toiling and accessing all this energy out, you're telling me I only have 30 minutes to make up for 5 hours of work, right? How is that actually really fair? I've exceeded a certain amount of energy. Then you tell me the nutritional values of the things that I want to eat and consume, and you delegate that, right? You control that. You tell me, okay, listen, you should eat these healthy things, right? But yet you give me food at maximum that is processed. I can get that cheaply, so I can go buy processed chicken nuggets for 99 cents. But if I really want to get some real, actual chicken that is actually made into the shape of a nugget, I'm gonna pay $10, $15 for that, right? So now I'm paying $10, $15 for chicken breast that's actually real chicken that I want to make into a chicken nugget. Whereas if I go to a fast food chain, I only pay 99 cents for theoretically the same thing, but it's not. It's processed. So that's why it's cheaper. It's going to kill me, and it's going to harm me, right? But you're going to give me that at maximum, yet tell me to stay healthy, right? So my example, me using that example is basically saying this, right? If I can cap or control, you know what I mean? Even when it comes down to our basic relationships, right? It tells you, right, that you're only we're told we're only supposed to be with one person forever and ever and ever and ever, and that's it, right? That's what we're told, right? Or we're told that we only can experience certain things with certain people at different levels, at different stages, right? So, but if we broke free of all those things, right, including how to control our food, how to control our relationships, how to control where we go, and how long we're there, right? Now, because you ever been having really great fun with somebody, right? Y'all chilling, y'all vibing, but then it's like they look at the clock and like, oh, it's late, I gotta go, right? So now they cap your time of enjoyment and your time of experience based on time, right? But when we have deja vu, there ain't no cap on that.
Right,
There's no universal law that's trying to influence that. We're able to experience that carefree and willingly. And I think that's how life really should be lived. But they're never going to let you really fully do that. And if you really can truly learn how to do that and they find out that you do, oh, you're going to be in some hot shit.
I want to say something. If I had the power, I put all the people I don't like in one time frame. I put all the people I love and care about in another.
But yeah, but Queen, they don't want you to have that excess amount of pleasure.
I know.
Right? If you have the excess amount of pleasure, then the thing is that, because here's the thing. If I can give you happiness, right? Or conditional happiness, right? Or conditional fulfillment, right? Then you're never truly happy.
No, you're not.
You're never truly experiencing your experience. You have to essentially enjoy your happiness under the condition of joy, right? Which is you have to put me in pain and I have to endure that pain in order to find happiness. Whereas, why can't we just be universally happy and I don't have to go through any of this pain, right? And I have to toil and do anything else. And what's funny is that the colonizer and oppressor gets that very well, right? They understand that fully, right? I don't. Y'all probably thinking, why you keep going back to that? Because it's actually true, right? They understand it truly well. This is why they want to control deja vu and their time and everything else, right? They will have a child that's 40 years old that's still living with them, and that child has access to things, and they treat that child as if they're still 10 years old, even though they're cognitively 40 years old. They have all their functions. There's nothing wrong with them. They still have the liberty to use their parents' account, their cars, and everything else, and kind of live a life of excess and not feel any type of anything, right? But yet they tell you to go out there and get it on your own, right? But yet their child could be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, and they've created a lifestyle for them where they don't have to even deal with any of that. Because they've created a community where they live in excess and comfortability, right? That's why we had the conversation before. I tell you, life is about getting results. It ain't about working hard. It's about getting results. You may have to work hard to get that result, but once you get it, it's about living as comfortably as you can, right? And so the colonizer and oppressor has figured it out. That's why if you ever figure out your deja vu, they're going to shut you down. They're going to shut you down because
I expect so.
They don't want you to be free. They want to be free, right? They want to live, you know, in 15 house mansions with all their cousins and kids and everything, and never have to worry about anything. But if you try to do some shit like that, it's over. They're gonna try to talk about your love life and put you in a scandal and all types of stuff. You know Lola's short, right? They're gonna try to say a whole bunch of stuff about you. You know what I mean? And try to degrade you and put you down. But we see this. Hold on. We see this. And we're gonna talk about the celebrities too, but we're not gonna tell you when. We're gonna talk about the celebrities too that uncover this. Anytime somebody has reached a point where they cannot be controlled as a celebrity, what do? What do? They always lower them, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's one of their own. Yeah, or they delete. You know what I mean? Once they get off the grid and they can no longer be controlled, they have to go. They have to go.
I do want to
say. Well,
Mr.
Bass, let me ask you a question. Go ahead.
Hold on, let Queen make a statement. I got to step away for 1 second.
No, I was going to say I have another situation about deja vu that was kind of freaky, but it was very touching at the same time. My mom had passed, right? And at her memorial, we had a private viewing for family only. And I had grabbed her hand, like between her thumb and the next finger, right? And I was just rubbing that area, like just holding her hand, right? My sister was pregnant. And so I came back to school, whatever. And when I came back home, I surprised my sister for her baby shower. And so I was in charge of, I said, you're having this baby before I go back. Like, I have to meet my niece before I leave. And she was naming her after my mom. So I went with her to the doctor, walked around the mall. Then, I was with my other sisters chilling, and we got a phone call. Hey, she's in labor. So she had the baby. I think I extended my stay, and the baby came home. They came home a few days after she had birth. And so I think the baby was like a week old, right? And so I was like, can I hold her? I want to watch her. I want to sleep. I want to sleep with her. I gotta be around her because I'm about to go home. So I wanted to be around her as much as possible. So, put her to sleep. She was laying on my chest, and she grabbed my hand. Mind you, she's a week old. And she put her thumb, right between my thumb and my other finger, and started rubbing, because I started crying because I was thinking about my mom. And then she kind of looked, she picked her head up as much as she could, and she looked at me, and then she laid back down. So I felt like that was my mom saying, it's okay. Very freaky, very freaky. And she did it exactly the same amount of time I did it when I was holding my mom's hand. So, I definitely believe in deja vu. It's a little freaky, but, yeah. So that was my little story.
Well, you know what? Memory, right, is something that that's a different phenomena. And I mean, me and Mr. Best have talked about creating a show around that. But I'll say this just briefly, that memory, we don't know where our memories are. However, we know every cell in our body remembers everything that happened to every ancestor before us. Like every cell remembers. It just, right now, for instance, your body doesn't need to express what happened to your 57th great grandmother right now, but it remembers, it knows. So all of the memories from that you shared, let's say before you were cognizant with your parents, or what your parents shared with their parents, it's still there with you. So therefore, when things happen and you can sense, because I always say how you wake up out of a dream and that energy you feel, that is the truth of what it's, whatever that vision was about. You have to pay attention to that feeling in that small time frame. You can experience things beyond time and not really understand what you're experiencing because it's coming from a place beyond time, because time is not a factor, as Mr. Best said. Like there's certain points in reality where time just don't, it's just not a thing. Like it's weird to talk about it because we're used to time right now, right? But it's not. You know, so it's really something that like I said, it's something we have to dig deeper into, because that's a rabbit hole. But again, the common thread is time.
Yeah. And can I?
It's not so much what happened.
Hold on, Queen. Hold on, Queen. Hold on.
M3, how you come in here looking like?
Hold on, Queen. Hold on. Nah, that background is sick.
It is. Man.
Yo, he ready for the Black Files. He ready for the Black Files for real. Everybody, welcome M3. You know what I'm saying? You definitely representing knowledge and wisdom, also known as part of the family. You know what I'm saying? No, that joint is fire. You know what I'm saying? And I like the way it's moving. That's sick.
It is.
So M3, man, what do you think before Lola asks me her question? I know Lola, you've got a question for me. Before you do that, M3, what's good, man? Talk to us.
Yeah, I got a question. Yeah.
Your sound is off, M3. I don't think it's headphone plugged in. You said 1 second.
He coming here looking like the Dark Overlord.
Queen was still be, but I tell you.
All right, guys,
I like it. You know what? I want a background like that. I want a background like that. I want one.
You got to get a green screen.
I can't use this
sound still out.
Go get a green tarp.
Oh yeah.
All right, try again. I think I heard you. I think I heard you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
Come back in, Darth Vader.
Look, Queen. First of all, get your mind right down there, okay? And your avatar right, because you're blank. All right, so look. Let me tell you that. So, now I know you guys have been talking a lot about deja vus, but for my more personal experience, I feel like I have more. How should I say this? Premonitions, okay? Ooh. And premonitions is basically you foresee something before the event has, properly occurred in its place in proper timing. And so, with my most experiences, right, and maybe this could tie into a little bit of deja vu, because to me, deja vu, in my own terms, it's like you've been in a certain event, in your past time, and so there's something that's reoccurring that's giving you that reminder, that signal. Sometimes it could be something that's like played in a musical note, and all of a sudden, everything that comes from your past is being reminded off of a little tune. I think music is a big part of it, to give that proper reminder. But like I said, for my case, it's like, for premonitions, sometimes I wake up. Well, before I wake up, I have like these strange dreams. And some of these strange dreams, it literally kind of helped me out, like a lot of times, to foresee certain dangers. Let's say, like, an example, I had a premonition that if I were to, let's say something simple, if I were to speed, okay, in the middle of the morning, okay, a cop would be right there in this particular area. And so, because I remember that premonition, and I remember that particular area that's sending me those reminder signals, I slow down, and sure enough, there's a cop right there. There was other premonitions where, like, something was really going to pop off, or I'm gonna have a premonition that, oh my gosh, like, you know, there's a shoot. Well, you know, let's just say like a pop out. You know what I mean? And so after that premonition, and it didn't happen to me, but it happened around with people that I know. Luckily, nobody was in danger, but they witnessed the danger. And it's like you just get that internal feeling, damn, something's wrong. Or even, and shout out to Grizz or whatever, because you know, maybe I could kind of relate to him a little bit, but I remember stories that he shares that, like, all he had to do was just touch someone. You know what I mean? Touch him on the shoulder, touch him on the hand or whatever. And then he just get these weird ass flashes that's coming around.
Don't be touching nobody, Grizz.
You know what I mean? So sometimes when I'm in close proximity of the person who I'm talking to, I get those like weird deja vu like thoughts that, yo, something is about to happen, but I don't know when. And most recently, there was a person that I know that her daughter was having a baby. Now, it could have fell on her birthday. The expected date was supposed to be on Halloween. But that gut feeling alerted me and said, you know what? That baby was going to be born on my birthday, November 3rd. And sure enough, it was. So there's a lot of stuff that goes around that we don't really pay much attention to, because we look at it like, oh, that's just like a thought, random thought. We tend to kind of brush that off.
Right. Yeah. But you know what, to your point, because I still need to ask Mr. Best a question, but to your point about, for instance, with the guy, he just randomly says, because maybe he feels like he wanted to happen, right? That the baby will be born on my birthday, right? And he might have felt good in that moment, but when we consider that, well, he said something, and there was such a high chance that it wouldn't happen. The fact that it did happen, right? One has to wonder, well, because they always say there's no such thing as coincidences in nature. That's unnatural for things to be coincidental. It's just very unnatural, right? The question is, and it ties back into what we were saying, that if he said that because it's already happened before, right? He's not aware of it. He's just speaking. The thing that's missing here, that's not overt, but we can see in the background, is there's a shortened sense of time. Sometimes time doesn't exist, meaning if that happened in another lifetime, 6 trillion years ago, it just so happened to pop up now, time literally has shortened down to to almost an absolute value. The same thing with the other example we gave about the premonition thing, right? You're having a current moment about something that is in the future, meaning time has now shortened. I mean, if you follow what I'm saying, because I can't explain all of this, right? Especially in one setting. But what I am saying is that in my investigation, what I'm noticing is that, because I've had premonitions in deja vu, so I know premonitions are very much connected to deja vus, but no one's going to talk about that. No one's going to say, listen, a deja vu is just a part of a premonition, or premonition is an aspect of a deja vu. Nobody's going to connect that, because what's disconnected is the time element. In every scenario, there is a time element that we're not really aware of, because we're in perceived time and we're not really looking at it that way. If somebody said something in the chat, I forgot what it was, but I wanted to go back to it. But before I lose my question, it was really thinking. He said, "I've never had deja vu with something negative. What about y'all?" Here's the thing. Remember, I said I feel that every aspect of us is about survival. So even your premonitions is about your survival, right? When you have premonitions, right? It's usually about something you need to know in an immediate moment. That's how I've experienced it. And like you, M3, when you have these premonitions, they help you, right? It's a strange survival mechanism. However, with deja vu, it's usually never in a circumstance of immediate danger. Most of the times, it's in the most calmest circumstances you can find, like the most casualist situation. Like, it's kind of weird how casual it is versus premonitions. Premonitions don't operate on the same scale. So, there is something to that, not because it happens at one particular instance in terms of something negative that you need to know or not. The pattern is what I'm more concerned with, that as far as the statement from Critically Thinking. It's about the pattern that we all experience on negative things and premonitions versus the patterns versus the patterns that we experience on the not negative things. It's the same. It's not so much what's negative or positive. It's the fact that we're in the same thing cognitively.
But Lola,
what's the question? What's the question, Lola?
So
wait, intellectual soapbox. Can I ask her a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, there's one thing that I noticed that nobody has really talked about. And maybe this is like something that's not commonly discussed or probably just intentionally ignored. But do you believe in reincarnation?
At this point, I have to at least consider the science of that, right? But I do believe in it. And I use the word belief very literally because right now I know what reincarnation is, right? However, I don't have an active memory that I can go back to say, yes, I remember when I was, right? I don't have that. However, right, there are things that is in my life and in everybody else's life that I've experienced that tells me that there was other lives lived. And this one, what I'm seeing is remnants of other lives. For instance, I've met people in which, and I think I told you guys privately, there's people even on our network that I've met, but in my mind, like they said their name is one thing, but in my spirit, I instantly feel that's not the truth. Their name is not that. That's not their name. Even though that is their name in this life, I'm getting this energy that's telling me that is not their name. Now, could that be because in another life it wasn't their name, or it was their name? Like, what is that? But these are things that I've experienced. Same thing with, let's say, traits, right? And I'm gonna go as far, and I haven't forgotten about my question, Mr. Vest. I'm gonna go as far as the rainbow community, okay? When you have someone who comes here, right, manifests here, and they are a man, right? However, they have these traits as if they're someone else. They feel like someone else. I've always wondered, could that be a manifestation of, like, let's say, a warped manifestation of past life instances that are still lingering, that's causing confusion in this life? Because if you were born as a man in this life, you have to operate as a man in this life for you to survive. But if you are struggling between two separate lifetimes that's separated by time, right? You're going to have these disillusions about yourself. Like, you look like a man, you have man feelings, but you have tendencies like a woman, and you're having memories in your cells like a woman. Now you can't survive because you have to choose who you are now or who maybe you was before, and you can't do that in this three-dimensional reality. So it's like, I've always wondered that about those people, but these are anomalies, because I've even heard of worse anomalies of people, children mostly, waking up telling their parents that I remember being, and Mr. Best, you might remember this, there was a little boy who, and there's many children like this, but they woke up, start telling their parents about weird shit and that they shouldn't know about. And when their parents look up, they find that the person that their child is talking about died years ago. But yet this child is having these memories from someone who they obviously don't know, never met, but they're saying, this is who I am. And people are like, that's not you, that person died. But they have the memories of the person that died. It's transferable. And so, you know, same thing with and I'll leave off on this point. Same thing when there's organ transports. When you take in somebody else's organ, your dreams tend to be memories of the person who passed. So now the question is, the physicality of that organ and your consciousness coming together now creates a memory pattern, right? But it's separated through time, or not separated through time, however you want to see that. But the issue is there's different scenarios in our lives that kind of wink at and point to there's something else that has happened that maybe when we cross over, right? Part of reality might mean when you cross over into different dimensions, there's a memory suppression that happens just naturally. You can't remember past a certain point, even though you have memories stored. You can't access them when you cross over.
But maybe you can through dreams.
It does happen. Maybe.
Well, maybe you can, because when you jump into certain dimensions, it starts off with the sleep. Because then your body or soul or whatever you want to call it, right? Somewhere down the spirit part that controls the body vanishes, and then it goes to a different dimension.
Right, and you remember
within that dimension, there's a thing. Like Mr. Intellectual Soulbox said somewhere earlier, that we could just probably still be sleeping.
Correct.
Or maybe, okay, we are, currently asleep, but we are awake when we're on the other side of that dimension, which is as known as our dreams.
And here's the thing that we could really get into that conversation in terms of the how that would actually look and work and why, right? Because there's physicality to it that I think deserves conversation. Again, that's another rabbit hole we got to go down on this channel. But I believe.
Have you got hurt in your dream?
Huh?
Have you felt any pain in your dream?
I have. And that's the thing. And that's why I said it's a rabbit hole. Because people say, like when you cross over, right? If you had other lifetimes, you don't remember them. However, you still carry memories, right? And when you cross over into dreams, you remember your dreams. And that's a dimensional cost. And you can remember. Why that is might have something to do with the proximity, right? But again, we're talking about proximity in time. Time seems to be the different equation here. But I do believe what you're saying, that it is a way to access it. But right now, because we're not focused on it and we're not studying it in large, we're not really progressing on that topic. But I do believe if more people started studying the topic you just brought up and just took it seriously for a freaking minute, like I think we could make some headway to understand the question of, well, why is it in one sense we're doing it, but then in another sense we're not, when technically we should be, theoretically at least. So, I'm all for that. But let me ask Mr. Best this question. Mr. Best, you spoke about food consumption, right, and control. We know that, or at least every scientist now will admit, that the chemicals that are being used in certain foods, right, calcifies certain aspects of the brain that are directly related to interdimensional types of experiences, right?
Yeah.
Now that's what we know, right? And that's very little of what we know. So the other 99.9% of what we don't know, for what you're aware of, is it your opinion or your position that the foods that we're consuming is chemically castrating us, maybe cognitively, and some of us may have a resistance to it based on our genetics? However, all of us are still maybe affected by it to some degree, which might explain why some of us might have experiences like myself, and other people may have like repeated intuitional moments, like M3 was talking about, like it's just repeated intuitional moments, not necessarily deja vu's in that way. And people like, Queen, that might have these circumstances where it's time related with people that have crossed over in terms of time. Like, do you think that we kind of like, it's almost like an engine that's kind of starting, but not really? It's like we want to turn on, but we can't because there's muck in our system. Do you feel that is happening? And if it is, do you feel that there's any empirical data or evidence, maybe more so evidence, that we can point to say, hey, they know that without these chemicals, human beings would be maybe something more than human, and they keep this here legal for whatever reason?
Of course, because when you eat fast food or you eat these type of foods, they're extremely cancerous, right? Not only that, they cause other medical deficiencies, right? They make you sleepy, you know what I mean? And they also create, they don't give you any protein or any real vitamins that's going to help sustain you and help to give you energy throughout the day. And that's the whole point of what they want to do. So of course they're going to, it's funny, right? Because what they do is they tell you what you need, right? They tell you everything that you need, but then they make it theoretically almost impossible for you to get it. Or if you do get it, right, you can only get it but so much, right? If I go back, if I want to buy a 2 family size pack of Wise potato chips, right, I would only spend $2. But if I want to go and get some healthy kettle chips, I'm spending $6 per bag. Why is that? Because it's healthier for me. It's going to actually give me energy. It's actually going to maintain me. It doesn't have, fats. Because fat is not bad for you. It's a certain type of fat that's bad for you, right? Mm-hmm. And if they can keep the good fat away from you, which allows you to build muscle, which allows you to stay in shape and allows you to stay, having energy, having good sleep patterns, things of that nature. If I can keep you away from that, and I can constantly give you the 99-cent chicken nugget, then guess what? It's going to affect everything you do. It's going to affect your mood, right? Because now, since you're eating this food that has no protein, no vitamins, no anything, your moods are going to be affected, right? Food, affects your mood. Everything affects your mood, including the weather. So when I introduce these things that are toxin into your overall your overall system, your overall essence, right? Now, okay, cool. I done ate, the double something with cheese. I'm not even gonna say their names because I'm not gonna give them any type of credit or any type of recognition. But matter of fact, I'm gonna do it anyway because I don't care, because I want people to know. I eat a double Whopper with cheese, right? I eat one of those. But now I done ate that, and this is supposed to give me energy. Like I said, I done worked all this time. I'm supposed to eat this, supposed to give me energy. Now I ate this, but now after I ate this, I'm sleepy, I'm grouchy, and I still have to work, right? So now, of course, it's hard for me to get up the next day to go to work. Of course, it's hard for me to have energy to go do anything else throughout the day after I get off of work. Even if I have a full 8 hours of sleep that they say that you need, after I ate that double something with cheese, double Whopper with cheese, now I don't want to do anything. Now I want to go lay down somewhere. Now I'm irritated. I'm fatigued. I'm grouchy.
Yes.
Because my body has not been given the right nutrition. You know what I'm saying? And once that happens, and that continues to happen, guess what? The body breaks down. Now you need the medical system, right? And then once you're in that, it's hard to get out. Trust me, I know. It's hard to get out.
Right.
So everything is designed to keep you at a low frequency. And then once you start to break out those frequencies, and you start to not let them control your time, not let them control like what you eat, what you see, things of that nature, then you become a threat. And once you become a threat, you have to go.
Are we seeing people? Are we seeing people that, let's say, are off the grid that are not partaking in these types of food chemicals, right? Are we seeing a difference in their experiences versus our own, though?
Yeah,
of course, because if you're completely off the grid and you're not around people, then yes, that's going to affect your reality as well. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So anything that you do affects your reality. You know what I mean? That's why certain people, they're like, man, I don't want to live in a major city because it's too distracting, right? It doesn't allow me to really connect within myself, right? There's some people, they're okay with living in a major city and it doesn't bother them at all. They've grown used to it. They built up a retainer for it. Yeah, a tolerance for it. You know what I mean? But eventually, I think throughout time, we want to stray away from that, right? You know what I mean? Because nobody wants to live in utter chaos all the time. Sometimes at times you're gonna want peace. You're gonna want to live free and amongst just not having to always be in the loop of things. So I think we all want to experience that. But yeah, go ahead, y'all.
I'm gonna say thank you for the topic. I have to go because y'all know where I'm at. So I make sure I stay in the time loop and I don't get stuck in the vortex of M3, dark M3, evil overlord. But
don't get stuck into that black hole.
That is a hot background. I'm sorry, I had to say. I was like, I want to take a picture of it almost, but I will give you a props today. Okay,
you can watch the replay and screenshot it.
I don't want to, because I'll watch the replay until you came on. When you came on, I don't watch no more. Okay, have a good night, guys. And yeah, Scully and Mulder.
Good night. Good night.
All right. I want to break down like the food system, which everything what Mr. Insulet says is factual, but we also have to say allegedly. But anyways, still factual, so we can't take that away from it. So here's the thing, right? Something always been that's always been in my mind as far as with foods that are, or what do you call it? Foods that are processed versus foods that are organically made. Okay. Now, don't you think that the food that has a lot of processing chemicals, let's say you have 2 oranges, one is an organic orange and the other one is a GMO type of orange, meaning you can put chemicals to make that orange look fuller than what it actually is. Now, the thing is, in my opinion, wouldn't it cost more, okay, to add a lot of these chemicals to these food systems?
It would.
Yet they're cheaper.
But the excuse is they spend quote unquote more money preserving all natural food because it goes bad more earlier than the processed food. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, true, and I get that. But my thing is this, okay? Now you have those type of foods that you know they will expire a lot sooner than the unfortunately the quote unquote regular foods that we normally eat that has all those processed chemicals.
Right.
Why don't you make the organic foods cheaper? Okay.
So they can keep buying.
So they can keep buying. And then you don't have to worry about expiration. You know what I mean? Especially if you already add certain chemicals to certain foods and you know the expiration date is going to last a little bit longer. With the McDonald's chicken nugget.
But the counter argument to that is, for instance, with chicken, they're saying in order for them to keep up with production needs, they have to cause chickens to lay more eggs earlier to get bigger quicker just to keep up with demand. Now, I'm not saying that demand isn't demand, but I'll be honest with you, here in the United States, 40% of all food is wasted. Almost 40% of all food is wasted. Like, so I'm like, I don't know if it's demand, but that's what they say.
Well, of course, they want to place like a demand because they want to place an urgency and they want to add like skills to why they're doing the things that they're doing. But if you go to a restaurant and you know there's a lot of food that's left over that could be given away to someone who really needs it, but then yet you tell your employees to throw your food away, that obviously you don't really care too much. And it's not about you're worrying about poisoning or being held liable. You just don't want to give the food away because you want to keep producing and keep making more money off of other foods that you guys have. But who knows? It's just that. It's not about keep feeding people. It's just about just making the money off of what they are selling. And this is the point where we're being told, okay, just keep taking these chemicals. And I feel personally, I feel that when it's being pushed on us in this way, it's because it serves a greater purpose. And I think it is a bigger purpose more than money, because when I look at people, let's say indigenous tribes that are still living in their traditional fashion, and how they and the things they experience in their rituals, some people would argue that they when certain Native American tribes, they smoke certain types of herbs, the reason why they're having experiences the way they're having it is because of the herb itself. But I kind of feel that it's not the herb that's causing them to have experiences beyond what we can explain. I feel that the herb in a sense, and I hope I'm saying it right, allows their mind, because their mind isn't clogged with chemicals, allows their mind to be expressive, meaning that, like you said earlier, there's certain things about nature that puts us in a certain mind frame. So nature framed our minds to certain in a certain fashion. Not to say that the rain is to feel any particular way, but Lola, let me
how nature operates. So I'm like,
Lola,
Go ahead.
pause real quick. Let me add on to this, okay? And I'm gonna just tell a quick story.
Mhm.
There's a person that I know that has autoimmune disease, okay? And so what triggers the autoimmune disease is that when she's in the States, the United States, like the processed foods help trigger it. But now she lives in a different country, totally different, where a lot of things has been totally omitted, okay, in Germany. So Berlin, Germany, something like that. So out there in Germany, they don't allow foods that has carrageenan in it, which is found in most milk products, dairy products. They don't add certain foods, like processed foods, like even like in Subway back then. Subway had azodibicarbonate, which was the chemical that you use to make yoga mats. Okay, until like a woman pretty much filed a complaint and protested against Subway, and now they totally took that ingredient off. But we didn't know that even in our daily breads, they had azodibicarbonate. You could even look that up. It's a long ass word, but trust me, Google will help you pronounce it or spell it. But the point is that here, everything is all about money. But however, the bigger thing about it is that they play into your health system. Because remember, healthcare is like the #1 leading industry that will never go away. And in order for the health industry to keep producing, you have to keep getting sick. Okay?
Correct.
Allegedly, people. Allegedly. All right? But however, you have to just be mindful that when you explore to like other countries and you notice that certain foods, when I mean foods, I'm not talking about like, oh, this cake or this pie is different, or the multi-ingredient foods is different. No, I'm talking about singular ingredients. Just simple lettuce,
correct,
tomatoes, apples.
Right.
Okay. My mind was enlightened when I went over to Cabo San Lucas, and I realized that there's a differentiation between the foods that we eat from here and the foods we eat from other countries. I even indulge in their delicacies, their desserts, and all that, and I didn't even feel bloated at all. It was just like I was just eating regular food, and I was okay. No, I wasn't feeling no health problems or whatever. Come back to the States, you eat like a Twinkie. Now you just feeling all sick. You know what I mean? Yeah, I gotta use that as an excuse.
But you know what? You know what, M3, and I'm gonna take it here, right? Because you brought that up about you traveling to other countries. Now, when I was in Frankfurt, Germany, right, I tasted some of their chocolate and a sandwich, right, and I did taste the more authenticity inside of the meal itself, right. I did, and when I was in Africa, I could taste the authenticity in it, right. However, okay, I feel that it's not just about the food that allows you to be free to have certain experiences that may lead to other things that we may have no knowledge of right now, right? I do feel there's a bit of genetics that play into that. And I'm not saying that, certain people, okay, certain people are beneath, going beyond what we understand right now in terms of their human value for what that is on this topic, right? But I'm gonna tell you something. I do feel that melanin inside plays a big factor in your connection to these phenomena, or let's say your ability to connect with these phenomena and actually understand and experience things within yourself. I do think that a lower level of that in your system will definitely affect how you experience the natural world. And right now, the way I'm explaining it, people may say, well, Lola, what you're talking about is phenomena, things that are beyond the natural world, outside of this dimension. But in reality, all dimensions are natural, right? It's the natural world. It's nothing outside of what's normal, right? But we just can't access it. So, hey, Marcus.
Who's the Marcus?
What up? Shout out. Cooking sandwiches.
Hey.
So
I heard she said sandwiches, so I had to come on.
Oh my God, yes. Well, tonight we kind of nibbling a little bit. We don't got our sandwiches on deck, but I'll just say this. I do think that, at least from what I know, there's a lot of research that's being poured into melanin within the brain. And what I find interesting is that everyone in the scientific community knows that elevated melanin in the brain allows the brain to more usage of your brain is available when you have better levels of this type of melanin. And therefore, that is the connection to what we're talking about. And we call it deja vu, right? But in reality, there's no name for it. It really isn't. We just call it that. But there is no real name for this because it exists in a way that, for instance, we just described 4 different ways this thing exists. So there's no real name for it. We just kind of overall calling it one thing. But if the government is continually saying, don't pay attention to this, it's just a phenomena, Wikipedia is like, it's nothing, whatever. But yet there's trillions of dollars going into the very underpinning of what connects us or allows us to connect to these types of things, that tells me that there's something fishy going on. Because I'm telling you, this type of like switcheroo sort of circumstances is weird. It's almost like me telling you, don't pay attention to, what people say about, clean air. Don't pay attention to that. It's something that happens. It's nothing, right? But then you find out secretly, right? I done spent my entire life researching it, and I done spent my last dollar trying to figure out what's in it. It's like, why am I telling you it's nothing, but yet I'm trying to get all the information about it? See what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, there is something more about deja vus, but people have been cultured to just silence this. And I'll be honest with you, this topic is more silenced than aliens. I'm just saying, this is more silenced than aliens. So you can say you've had experiences with all sorts of things, but start talking about being able to control time and deja vus. Start talking about that. Like it's just real. Hey, Stan.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hi.
Joseph.
And the man.
Not much. How you guys doing?
Pretty good, sir. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing good, and I am enjoying the topic and the show. Like typing away with my thumb.
Excellent. I feel you.
He said I'm typing away like what's in the conversation? But you know what, Stan?
Yeah.
Can you agree that you were told the same thing growing up? That it was literally nothing, like not to pay attention to it whatsoever.
No, I wasn't told that.
What were you told?
I was told to, one, keep it a secret.
Wow.
And two, be careful that I'm Haitian, and be careful don't get into witchcraft because other family members done it, participated in it. So for me, it's. I remember like being 3 years old, and I can tell my mom when I was a baby the number of homes I stayed in, and it freaked her out. And I always had.
But they told you that was witchcraft?
You have to be careful because it leads into witchcraft.
It spirals down into that rabbit hole.
Like there was a lot of times I'll get asked to pray over somebody, and they'll read the scripture about the innocence of a child, blah blah blah. Or they'll have me pray over somebody and they'll receive a blessing, right? There was one point where I prayed over my aunt. She was in the hospital, and what I saw at the hospital was that she was cursed by a woman, and I described the woman. I never met this woman before, and the people in the family knew, and they were like, "Hey, keep it quiet." My mom listened to the dreams and write stuff down. There's this stuff I used to do as a kid, like they used to write down that I was antisocial, but I wasn't antisocial. I was deja vu because I see it was happening right in front of me again. So I'm just looking like I already played. So now I'm just watching the show, and the teachers just be mad, like, "No, go ahead and play this, and this is going to happen. This is to freak people out." So that was a lot of times. It was like to keep it a secret, and just don't don't talk about it, and just be careful what you do with it, because it's a lot of times that can lead into witchcraft. And there was one point for me growing up, there was a ceremony that my family had done for protection. I was pretty young. I still remember everything, and I also remember the argument that my mom and my dad had. I'm not supposed to remember. I remember my father's leather jacket wrapping over me, the smell of it, him having cornrows, the duplex apartment we stayed in, or it was like I just remember all the little details. Now, fast tracked it. We leave Miami, we're in California. The Haitians on the West Coast is a little bit different here, right? I meet a Haitian, and I had to ask them about the ceremony, because every time I ask somebody about this ceremony that was done, people just don't say nothing, they leave me alone. When I told him what the ceremony was, he just froze, and he told me something that I always was told from my family: never let people read me. And there's psychics or whatever, like, just don't let them touch you, don't let them read you, because bad things gonna happen. And he told me that, and I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, hey, I gotta leave you alone, because this is not gonna be good for me too. I don't know what they did, but apparently, like, I just really gotta be careful with it. And that's like my whole life. Like, I agree with everything you guys say. Like, the mind is something that's like God created it, that is so, like, it's so out there. There's so much stuff that we don't know.
Right.
Like, there's one experience, the environment that I was in before, Mr. Intellectual Soapbox and M3 knows, I was dealing with a couple of guys there that was just not good for me, right? All this forgive and forget, right? You always got to forget and all this stuff, right? This time, my body took charge, and I days, going on 4 days, and I had to go to the hospital and find out what was going on. The doctor told me what was happening. They're like, look, you did all this with forgive and forgetting. Your mind and your heart, you guys agreed something, but now the body is on attack mode. It's ready to kill. Stay away from the don't go in that environment for 2 weeks, because it's not good for you. Because my body was like, okay, I got it from here. You're good. And that's the thing in the mind that we don't know about. Like, it's amazing how our minds could just, our body could just take care of the mind when the mind needs to be shut down a little bit.
My mind is telling me no.
That notion, right, of the expansion of the mind is something that I've seen certain scholars researching, right? But a lot of times they're labeled pseudo scholars when they get into that topic, because, for instance, when we talk about twins, their mental connection, when we talk about mothers and babies, when we talk about people having premonitions about something currently happening in another part of the world, and it's usually something they need to know. It's usually like survival based, right? And we say, well, how is it that you're feeling an event happening where you're not at, right? It's not your body feeling it, right? It's your mind connected to a different place in space simultaneously. So therefore, as they say in quantum physics, your mind is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So this is why time doesn't exist when it comes to premonitions, deja vus, any type of phenomena in that way. Time is the one thing that is the underpinning that seems to disappear, and it seems to disappear in a way that in the moment you're not concerned with that. Like, it's almost like you can't even think in terms of time, but then it comes back when it's all over.
Why is the timer up? What is going on?
I know we talking about time.
I don't know what's happening right now. Yo, what is this?
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. I don't. Like, it's weird. It's really weird. But I have seen a lot of people talking about that. But I'll be honest with you. I believe that your consciousness is outside of your body, right? But it operates within the body. Like, it needs a body to operate.
Another timer?
But it is everywhere. So this is why you can experience an event happening elsewhere and know something's wrong. because your mind is there. Like, it's not like your mind is not there. Your mind is like I know you've heard some people say your aura is around your body. That's a lie. Your aura is everywhere. It's not just around your body. So this is why you experience these things at a distance, like, and I mean far distances. I remember